All right, some of you've wondered, as I have wondered, if you notice my clapper. Okay, this is daily adventure number 672, painting a tree-lined city street. And look at scene one, take two. If you've ever wondered, it always says scene one, take one. Well, now it doesn't. Now it says scene one, take two, because that's what this is. Anyway, thank you for joining me. Sorry for that irritating interlude. Let's talk about subject matter for a minute. When you go out to paint, most of the time, most of us walk around interfacing with our environment in a very holistic and intuitive manner. You're seeing, like you guys can't do this. You can't feel the wind that I'm feeling on my face. You can't hear the ambient sound. You don't have quite the sense of dimension that I have here, right? You understand? So when you're here, you smell, see, feel, taste, hear, all your senses. And I'm gonna go so far as even some kind of weird, intuitive, creative, imaginative sixth, seventh, eighth senses are at work. So when you're looking for something to paint, you're typically thinking globally, intuitively. Then when you take a picture, you ever had this experience? Then you go home. Now this used to be more when you had real cameras. Then you go home and you look at your pictures and you go, what did I see in that? And discard, discard, discard. Are you with me? Does that make sense? So one of the key principles to be a better artist is to sort of get out of your global, intuitive, all 5, 6, 7, 8 senses self and zero into visual self. So there's something about this scene that appeals to me. Now clearly, two men playing chess, that's part of it. The trees, part of it. Even this, do you see that awning up there with the cables that come down at an angle? That's one of those important angles in a subject matter. I tell you to keep your eyes out for it, because those are particularly, even though they're skinny, those are really powerful. Okay, and of course then it's always play of light. Hello, sir. I'll interrupt my tirade. I'm Dan. Thank you. I'm painting. I'm doing this painting right now. I'm either schizophrenic or I'm broadcasting. So what are you gonna paint? This view right here. The light, the trees, the chess players.
Really?
Yeah. Can you come back later? Are you?
How much time?
Well, I'll be here till 9 or 10 o'clock. Easy. I'm getting started really late tonight, so.
When are you gonna start that?
In a few minutes, in just a couple minutes. As an artist, you need to zero into your visual. What is it visually that's appealing to you about this scene? Does that make sense? Because honestly, when I'm standing here, I'm feeling the dimensionality of this space and then trees and the space beyond. I'm feeling in my gut, so to speak, in my global intuitive 6, 7, 8 senses, if you'll allow me to use those terms. I'm feeling this space, but as soon as I take a picture of it, all of that space gets truncated down into a single flat image, and that's what you scratch your head and said, what the heck was I thinking of? So one of the keys is, while I'm standing here, to cut out all the other stuff and say, no, visually, ignore all the intuitive stuff. What is it that's drawing me? I've already taken about 10 pictures of you guys, so just want you to know. I told them if they sat there for 4 hours, they'd get in a painting, but okay, so here's part of, and I'll stop painting. I'll stop talking and start painting soon. But here's part of what's appealing to me about this, as far as I can tell, objectively speaking. It is color. Besides light, it's color. The coolness, and I need to remember this when I look at my picture. My picture will remind me, but the cool windshields, the fairly cool shadow. So if and now this is be one of those paintings that are warm or cool, because the light is warm but the shadows are cool. the organic shapes up here, and of course the straight lines of everything else. So I'm going to stop there and start painting. I hope some of that made some sense to you. Let's get you guys pointed the right direction now. And as you know, so there's a lot of red at the top of this painting. That means I'm going to do a lot of red and green. There's a lot of brown at the bottom of this painting. That means I'm going to do a lot of blue in the underpainting. Okay, and if some of you are brand new or kind of new, just last night, Daily Art Adventure number 671, at the end of last night's painting, near the end, not at the end, but near the end, I talked quite a bit about the crazy, and I admit it's crazy. And I didn't always paint this way. It took me a long time to get this crazy. Let me see, what else? Yeah, just some more pure red, I think. I love painting outside. It's really hard to do that in the house. Let's do the same thing with some yellow. Oh, there we go. That's what I'm looking for. There we go. One of the things I have at home in my studio is a big spray bottle. Out here, I just have this tiny, tiny little spray bottle. I don't know if it'll work or not. I'm going to give it a try. So I love runs and drips. So with a big spray bottle, I come up here and spray this wet paint. And pretty soon it starts to drip. So that was a lot of work for not many drips, but I'm going to do it again anyway over here. Why do I like drips? That's a good question. You might have heard this story before, but years ago when I did a couple of commissions. No, years ago I did dozens, hundreds, scores of commissions. And a couple times the customers asked me to come back and fix the drips. To say I was a little irritated is an understatement, but I'm a professional and these people were paying me, so I kept my mouth shut and I went back and fixed the drips. But one of the changes that engendered in me was from that point onward. Heather, exactly. Don't walk behind one of Dan's paintings before it's finished. Exactly. One of the changes that getting called back, as I say, engendered in my practice was make sure there are enough drips showing at the end of the painting process so that nobody could possibly construe them for mistakes. Yeah, it was difficult. Maybe I was being a sensitive, hypersensitive artist. I don't know. That is possible. That's a label I don't like to claim for myself, but it's I'm willing to admit some of my feet of clay anyway. Anyway, so I like drips because they convey a sense of spontaneity, freedom, quickness. They give the impression that the painting was done in that manner. And of course, as you should all know, if you're right, that is exactly how my paintings are done with it. Okay, having a little trouble with my vanishing point here. Don't know exactly where it is. And this is clear. It's supposed to be right about there. So this line is wrong. Let's fix that one first of all. And then this line is wrong too, because all the lines that that are parallel in real three-dimensional space converge. In other words, all of these buildings, let me turn it around that way again just for a minute. So all of these lines that are actually parallel in real three-dimensional space, they all converge in two-dimensional space. They all point to this one spot. Okay? I don't know if you caught that. That's as far as I want to go. Don't have the energy for that one tonight. Now, you know, one of my favorite things to point out is that I have lots of opportunities to get all these lines correct, right? I don't have to get it right all at once. Now, that doesn't mean I don't try. I do. This is me trying. I promise. This is me trying to get these lines correct. But even with trying, now could I employ a cheater method? Absolutely. Could I? Yeah, absolutely. Are you kidding? Of course I could. Just don't forget that every time you cheat, and what is a cheat? Is a grid, or just about threw a brush on myself. Anytime you employ a cheater method to get the drawing done, like a grid, it's classic. And of course, again, if you watch some of my wedding paintings, I am not above or beyond doing a grid, especially under time constraints and so on. Okay, but every time you employ what I call a cheat, then I get a whole bunch of people saying, hey, it's not cheating. Meh. My definition. Every time you employ a cheat, remember, it's perfectly legal, but your skills are deteriorating. Or as I like to say, more picturesque speech, remember, your brain is shrinking every time you cheat. So it behooves you and me not to cheat too much, or we'll suffer from shrunken brain syndrome. One, two, three, there's one tree here. There are a whole bunch of trees in this painting. Did I tell you that? Did I call this broadcast Tree Line City Street? Yeah, I did. One of the things I've learned about painting cityscapes is that the sides of a city street, the sidewalks, are a veritable, as I say, a veritable forest of vertical marks. There's hundreds of vertical marks. Trees, streetlights, and traffic and parking signs galore. There's probably 40 traffic, parking signs per block. 15 streetlights and 25 or 30 trees. Anyway, so I'm just making a whole bunch of vertical marks just to begin to capture. Oh, I know, one of the things that did capture my attention in this scene also, was the presence of the American flags. So I'm cheating here. I'm doing local color, which is, I don't usually do. I usually try to stay away from local color. But I'm afraid that if I don't do this, I'm going to forget. I'm going to forget that I like the local color. I'm going to forget that I like the American flags. All right? And then, of course, I've got these two guys playing chess here. And they are major element. Besides them, of course, there are people walking down the street, a couple of people sitting on benches. Branches. I didn't need to tell you that. You know those are branches, didn't you? Come, come, come. I would like to find out why my music keeps playing. Forgive me. More technical snafus. I will tell you this, when I'm at home painting, I usually don't have music playing. I usually have a history, philosophy, science, some kind of cultural podcast playing. But when I'm out on the street, I have music playing. I have my music playing so as to insulate and protect me from the other people's music. I'm standing right in front of a Sheraton lobby, and they have their music playing. And I don't know why I've turned into such a snob, but as usual, I don't like their music. And it's pretty unobjectionable stuff, really. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and plaster the top of this with some kind of smooshy green. And I'm going to plaster the bottom of it with some kind of smooshy orange. That's the technical term, smooshy. Adding a little bit of medium. Probably done with those brushes for the night, probably. Now, without any pause, making a mess, dropping stuff all over, I'm going to go straight to my first layer of white. So it's white on wet, a very distinctive phase or stage of my painting process. White on wet. White on wet. Catch that? Okay, cars. Those are cars parked on this side of the street. Some of the architecture across the street. Isn't this just a glorious mess? I love it. And people come by at this stage of the painting process and they want to be nice. So I often say, nice painting. What they really mean is, nice try. I hope this isn't your day job. Some tree holes already. just got some good looks from guys, some older gentlemen walking by. One man really gooseneck turned around and to stare at this again. He did not have a happy face on. Mildly troubled. Oh man, I love it. When I first started painting on the street about 15 years ago, I did not enjoy this stage. I wasn't secure enough in my, it was, you know, I was launching in a new technique of painting and everything. I wasn't all that confident, and so I always wanted to hurry and rush through this ugly stage because of those troubled stares. Now that I'm old and ornery, it just makes me laugh. All right. No, tell me that doesn't look exactly like that street. Okay, no, don't tell me that, because it most certainly does not look exactly like that street. All right, it's good time for pencils now. And things start getting a little bit more serious, don't they? I'm trying to make up my mind about this bench that's here real close to me. I'm going to start putting it in. I might take it out later. And actually, right at the moment, there's a man sitting on the bench. I will not. I don't want to put him there and be a little bit dominating to have a figure that close. But traffic signs, lots and lots and lots of traffic signs. This reminds me a little bit of a real favorite of mine, a watercolor painting that I did, man, 10 years ago now, probably. I think it's just a favorite because it was such a fun experience. I spent a week in New York City painting. Man, I would love to go back and do it again. I'm so much a better painter now than I was then. I'd really love to do it again. Anyway, and I was staying in Greenwich Village, and I was not far then from Washington Square Park, I think it's called, or is it Washington Park? It's either Washington Park or Washington Square Park. Some of you will know. And Washington Square Park, I'm going to call it, is a famous chess playing place in the world. And tables like this, stone tables set up, you know, stay there all day, you know, all year round. Stone tables, and people come, of course, to play chess. There was, which movie, Finding Bobby Fischer or something like that, was filmed there because Bobby Fischer actually did play at Washington Square Park, so it was fun to be there. And when I was there, had actually seen the movie, so that was fun. It's like, hey man, this is where Bobby Fischer played, so it was fun. And it was sort of like this. It was in that it was a black man and a white man playing chess. Just kind of fun, you know, good community atmosphere. Human beings being human beings kind of atmosphere. That was fun. Okay, now here's where I usually go wrong on my cars. It's right at the very beginning. That was a sigh, wasn't it? Those are cars. There's cars across the street. I know I didn't need to tell you that. You could tell that's what those were. False. I don't want this, I think this painting today, I don't want it to be as twilighty as my last couple paintings. I want it to be late afternoon. And I talk about this often, plein air painting. The light's always moving, so you have to decide as soon as you show up, if you think that the light that you see when you get there is what you want. I see some good chats going on here. Wait. For some reason, my chat is not working. Let me try to fix this, because I see a bunch of chats. Oh boy. I'll come back to that later. Let's just paint. Oh, and I thought I was going to be done with these big brushes. What was I thinking? Not at all. Paint, no. 60, 70, 80% medium. That's what I'm trying to say. And the remainder is paint. So they're way more paint. But there are times, of course, that I want it much thinner than that. And it's then when I use when you see me pouring the glaze on my brushes. And why don't I just use water? I have learned that when you use too much water, the water just runs off your canvas, and the glaze that you put down that at first looked very nice and thin and pale continues to get thinner and paler as you wait, as you watch, and it all just runs off. So the medium keeps it stuck to the canvas better. All right, done with that for the moment. Funny. I don't seem to have some of my larger brushes. Oh, there it is. All right. Well, let's do it anyway. I'm gonna. Sorry, my monitor is running away, so I can't see your chats. Heather, something was going on, I see. And to tell you the truth, gang, I did a stupid thing. On my iPad a minute ago, it says, update now, and my finger accidentally hit the yes. So my iPad is completely turned off for who knows how many minutes. Looks like for half an hour at least, according to the progress bar. So I won't be able to see any of your chats unless I catch them on my phone. Hello, David Mercer. We are painting a tree-lined city street. The charm is in the shady, cool of the afternoon. Quite pleasant out here, by the way. Very unusual August afternoon here in Raleigh, North Carolina. I don't know what the high was, maybe 85, maybe not even that high. So quite nice, quite pleasant here. And probably it feels like high 70s now, which, you know, now that we all have our summertime. I'm doing something very unconventional right now, by the way. I'm painting with a pastel opaque color. Very rarely do that at this stage of the acrylic painting. It's almost always white acrylic, and then if I want it to be a color, I do a glaze on top of that. But here I am actually violating that normal practice and doing a pale yellow-orange. Just for fun, partly as an experiment, partly as a shortcut. I said, you know what, I think I could make more progress quickly this afternoon if I sort of cheat, in a sense. Instead of doing white, if I do that. Now, surprisingly, I surprised myself. This color palette, let me point you at the scene again just a minute. This color palette is actually very close to the scene. Hang on, let me zoom in a little bit. That's about what I'm doing right there, okay? And again, I admitted at the beginning, you might have a little bit of a hard time. Now the sun is not shining way back there at the back. You can see a tiny bit of sun, but I want a little bit more of that. When I first got here an hour ago, there was more of that happening. It was a little bit more enchanting, of course. But anyway, that little trick with the pale orange, pale yellow, opaque paint was a good trick, because that feels to me very close to what I want my final color palette to be. I'm going to follow up now using the same two brushes. I'm going to do some white highlights. So one of the things I'm doing, I am moving a whole bunch of things around here, trying to keep the essence of this scene, but there are a number of things that I am not trying to reproduce. One is for instance, the juxtaposition, the relationship between the trees and the cars, and in fact, and the chess players. I've moved the chess players where I want them, right here, and so forth. And I think it'll work okay. I'm most worried about the cars, to tell you the truth. That is, I still find cars a challenge. You know, just me saying that, right, it makes me realize I need to get out and do what I've done in the past. In fact, I've got a daily art adventure not that many years ago. Well, I've only been doing it 2.5 years, but anyway, maybe a year and a half ago, where I actually took you guys with me, and we went out figure drawing cars. A couple times. In fact, one time at least, it was a cold, drizzly winter day, and hard to paint anything outdoors, so I could just sit in my van and draw cars. And I really need to do that again. I would like to get to the place where I'm just more familiar. You know, like I'm a lot more, thank goodness, I'm a lot more familiar with the human figure than I am cars. When I was, now I'm doing that opaque stuff again. When I was 13, 14, and 15 years old, that's when I went through my I love cars stage. Very appropriate, in my opinion, for a boy, for a young lad, to go through the enjoying and looking at cars. And then that was pretty much it. At age 14 or 15, I grew out of it. That was the end of loving cars. Okay, so do the math. If I was 15 when I stopped loving cars, that was 1969. I still know the models and shapes of, did I say that word twice? I know the shapes of cars from 1969 better than I do from 2019, and that is the truth. That is the embarrassing truth. My son Cameron laughs at me all the time at my cars. Now I've tried to, because of his laughter, I've actually made adjustments to try to get better at drawing cars, but he used to blame me he used to accuse me of drawing, painting Russian cars. See, I don't even know enough about Russian cars to know how unsightly they are, but evidently they're remarkably unsightly. Now, I do have an impression, whether it's from him or my own, I don't know, but I do have an impression about boxy, homely Russian cars. But anyway, he accused me a couple times, embarrassed me, about, can you believe these children? Whether you give your life to them and then they grow up and embarrass you to death as young adults. Oh my goodness. You guys, I'm sorry. My finger accidentally hit the yes update some probably operating system on my iPad, which means after it's all updated, I may not even be able to turn the thing on, you know, depending on how drastic the updates are. So I have 1968 Mustang, or some year. I just barely saw that one as it flashed by. Yes. This is definitely a tree. This is definitely a tree. I'm moving things around to suit my purposes. This right here, I believe, is a lamp post, street light post. But I have a problem here. These are a little bit too equidistant. I mean, it's wider there than there. Do you see? But and that's a building in the background. Let's do some stuff in the background just to. I better be careful that I don't slip into equidistances. Do you know what I mean by that? Oh my goodness. There's so many ways to screw up in a painting. Have you? Why do we? I'm going to put us all in the same boat. Maybe you don't, but why do we screw up in our paintings? The answer is because while our mind is hard at work on one problem, we focused on one issue, we screw up in 14 others. That's the reason why we do dumb stuff. And I see it, I do it all the time, and I see it all the time. I hope not all the time. Anyway, I do it frequently. And I witness this when in our monthly painters group. I talk about this all the time. You guys, if you're not in the painters group, you need to create one. You need to get in one. And somebody will put up a painting, and you know, the rest of us, and it's happened to me too. I made some stupid mistake, and everybody looks at me like, Dan, 69 Chevelle. You weren't even born till the late 70s. He wants a car older than you. That's kind of sweet, I think. Oh, I love the position. Frankly, I love the positions that chess players have. What was I going to say? Besides me missing all your wonderful chats. I'll catch them all later when my iPad finishes. Oh, it's nearly 1/3 finished, so maybe 25 minutes. Okay, so I was saying, at a painter's forum, somebody will put up a painting and there's an obvious dumb mistake, and everybody looks at them like, well, that was dumb. And including when you mention it, the artist goes, that was dumb, I know better than that. And believe me, every one of us knows the feeling. I mean, there's not an artist out there who doesn't go, oh my goodness, I know better than that. But how does that happen? It's because you're focused on something else. Now there is a remedy, a solution to that. In fact, I saw a reference to it on a website just yesterday, I think it was, and I would love to go back and find it again. Let me see if I can. If you haven't, there's a name for this, and one of you might know the name. Imagine a grid. I'm just not the painting. I'm just talking about a diagram. If I had a piece of paper here, I would draw a quadrant, divided into four quadrants. Bump, 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 bump. On the left side of this diagram is unconscious or unaware. On the right side is aware. On the bottom of the diagram, the two boxes on the bottom are incompetent, and the two boxes at the top are competent. So if you go around the circle, you start in the lower left corner with unconscious incompetence. And I saw, again, in some article yesterday, and somebody could tell me that there's actually a name for this diagram. And it's brilliant, whoever came up with it the first time. I think I'm going to add a lamppost or something right here. Whoops, it comes right down on that guy's head. Doggone it. That was not good. I don't know if I can erase that or not. I either have to move his head or move, okay, there we go. Whew. Let's try that again. Now, can I move it over, which way? I'm actually going to move it this way. Okay, lower left quadrant. If you have a paper in front of you, do this. 4 boxes, bump, 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 bump. Bottom 2, unconscious. Top 2, conscious, or unaware and aware. Left, am I doing this right? No, no, no. Competent and incompetent, unaware and conscious. So the bottom left, I've made this so confusing, the bottom left corner is, that is unconscious incompetence. That is, you and I, as human beings, at some point, wow, Uncle 60, a 1916 Mustang Mach 1, wow, where do you get dads like you? Horatio, I have come to discover that you are a very handy man. Wow, you're full of surprises. That is amazing. 69 Mustang Mach 1. 3 years to paint it fire engine. 3 years to paint it fire engine red. That's a funny way to put that. Okay, so continuing with the diagram here. This is really helpful. Bottom left corner, unconscious incompetence. That means you're terrible at something, but you have no idea that you are terrible at something because you have no experience or education in that area, right? So then you go out and get some education in whatever subject it is, playing golf, CPR, having babies. After 5 speeding tickets, I sold it. Yeah, our son had a I think 2011 Corvette Stingray for a number of years before his baby was born. Don't tell my wife. And I don't think he got any tickets. I must say, in many respects, my son is very mature in that regard. So all you can do with a car like that is accelerate fast. You know, up to 70, 75 miles an hour, or whatever it is, 80, right? And then that was the fun, that was it. There's not really any fun of going fast, it's just starting fast, that's all you can do. Anyway, so unconscious incompetence graduates to conscious incompetence. At this level, you now realize that you're really bad at something. And believe it or not, that's a better condition to be in than the first condition, which was unconscious incompetence. Now this, I'm going to relate this to painting in a minute, so hang on, just for a minute. Then, after working, whatever this new skill is, you get to the third level, which is now the upper right-hand corner. You're going around this way. Upper right-hand corner, which is conscious competence. That means you're good at something when you think about it, and you are thinking about it. You're trying to be good, and as long as you're thinking about it, you're good. And that's better than the first two. But the highest level, and of course, I know these, I've got it going this way, you can do it any way you want. The highest level for me, the diagram, is the lower right-hand corner, which is unconscious competence. All right, do you follow me? At that point, you do something without even thinking about it. You don't even have to think about it. It has become second nature. And that's where we want to get in our painting. As much as possible, we want to get to the unconscious competence level. Not in painting. No. Let's narrow it down. Like in perspective, play of light, figures, For in my case, I was talking about being bad at drawing cars. I am consciously, I'm in the second square. Maybe a few years ago, I was terrible at painting or drawing cars, but I didn't really realize how terrible I was. Does that make sense? Then I had the embarrassing realizations like, oh my goodness, I'm really terrible at cars. So then I worked hard, but I'm still at the first level. I haven't gotten to conscious competence yet. I'm at the point in drawing cars where I know that I'm really, really not very good at drawing cars. Does that make sense? But that's better than being terrible at drawing cars and not knowing it. So, okay, let's get to the kind of mistakes we make in painting. We make mistakes, because we're thinking about something else. Is that making sense? So the solution here is to continue practicing, so that more and more and more of the things you do in painting are unconscious competence. That is, you do the right thing without even thinking about it. You don't even have to think about it anymore. And that's how we get better at painting, is by continuing to practice. Same thing in every field of human endeavor, every field of excellence. As musicians go through a never-ending cycle, a never-ending progress of going around. You never run out of things to be working on. As soon as you think you've got one thing slightly down, you discover that, oh, there's 14 other things you're not doing. And that is so, so, so true. I find there is a great deal of commonality between people, all people, let me see if I can turn on who pursue excellence, really aggressively pursue excellence. All people of excellence have much more in common with each other, even though their fields of excellentness are vastly varied. Let me use an example that doesn't have anything, none of me in it. A Major League Baseball player, just for instance, a Major League Baseball player will understand a highly skilled mathematician, someone who has studied animal husbandry, and I don't mean just the ordinary farmer, I mean somebody who's really, really, really worked. I'm talking about excellence. Will find more in common with the concert violinist. This is related to another subject that I like to try to bend the twigs of young people, and this one's worth sharing. It's been a long time since I shared this one. And let's come back to art for a minute. Whenever I have the chance to influence a young artist, and I'm gonna pick on a particular category, and at first blush it might sound, because in our culture we're not supposed to talk about racial distinctives or racial differences or anything like that. Well, what I'm about to say has nothing to do with value or skill or intelligence, nothing whatsoever. Hang on just a second, all right. But it's a classic in America. It's a classic example of one of the many problems we have in our culture because of our particular history, and because of our history just since 1965. Thank you, Lyndon Baines Johnson. Oh boy. Okay, so I run into let's say, a delightful young African-American artist, otherwise known as a black artist. And they have decided many times to use their ethnic.
I don't see me in the picture.
Oh yeah, right there.
Oh! Okay, so I'm around.
And they have followed the path of their peers, and they've decided to be a good black artist, if you will. And I always recommend very strongly against that, and I have a diagram for this as well. You know I had a diagram for this, didn't you? Okay, as artists, oh Lord, come on. As artists, let me just continue to talk in generalities just for a minute, and I'll get to specifics in a minute. Sir Walter Apartments, that's what that says. That will most certainly not be legible. Let me talk in generalities again for a minute. Several years ago, when my wife and I took our children to Washington, D.C. for a couple days, we went up the East Coast, stopped in D.C., and did the usual tour stuff, went to the Smithsonian. In the Smithsonian, well, in the Space and Aeronautics, I forget I don't know what it's called, but anyway, in the Aviation Museum, the aviation building part of the Smithsonian, there is one large room dedicated to women in aviation. Now, let me. By the way, I know politically, I continually tromp around where angels fear to tread. I recognize that. I'm not clueless. I know when I'm killing sacred cows. I'm actually innocent of the charges, but that's right. There's one large room dedicated to women in aviation. Now let me ask you a question. Why is there not another room dedicated to men in aviation? The answer is because the whole dang building is men in aviation. Now, I'm not going to get into whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. And clearly, as a man, I apologize to all you women for all the negative patriarchal things that have happened through history. Not all of them were negative, but sure, a lot of them were. Sure. It is the men who go off and get their guts bludgeoned out on the battlefield, not the women. It's the men who say women and children first, because men are supposed to, anyway. So it's anyway. Okay. So what does that have to do with art? Here's my diagram. Imagine a circle. Imagine it divided into pie pieces, a pie chart. If you're an artist, you do not want to pick a slice out of the pie and say, I want to be the best left-handed painter of Swedish extraction in Des Moines, Iowa. I'm being silly, are you with me? Here's a diagram, here's all the artists in the world, but doggone it, I have found a niche. Well, let me pick myself. Let's say my ambition is to be the best two-handed painter in Raleigh, North Carolina. Is that a good goal? No, that is a stupid goal. Now, have I achieved that staggering level? Yes, I have. I am the best two-handed painter in Raleigh. Woo-hoo! Who cares? Nobody. Who will ever care? Nobody. All right. So, as artists, let me go back to my dear African American friends. Many of them said, "I'm going to be a black artist, or an African American artist," to use the politically correct term, with which I disagree vehemently. Anyway, that's another story. And they say, I want to be a good black artist. It is not a good decision, not a good choice. Because, in fact, you may achieve that goal, and who the heck cares? We don't care if you're the best left-handed Swedish extraction painter in Des Moines, Iowa. Nobody gives a flippin' rip when it comes down to it. Now, in the short run, and because our culture in America is kind of screwed up in many ways, as are all the other cultures in the world, just in different ways, in the short run, that might actually work well for the young African-American artist. They actually can achieve a higher degree of success because they're trying to be a big fish in a little pond. By the way, one of my favorite along this line is the artist who is not doing this, has not done this, is Thomas Blackshear. If you don't know who Thomas Blackshear is, just Google him, look up Thomas Blackshear. Not right now, you're watching my video. Stop that, get your finger off that screen. Thomas Blackshear, I cheer myself silly. I've never met him. He is an African-American artist in America. Is that redundant or what? And he did not ever decide to be the best African-American illustrator in America. He did not. He just, I don't know what he decided. I've never met him, but you know what I mean? It's obvious. He is one of the best illustrators, period, in America. All right? That's so. The chart, the round chart, is not a pie chart. It's a concentric circles, like a target. So again, I'm talking to any young artists who might be watching or might influence. Do not pick a slice and say, I want to be the best, this, that, or the other. Don't say, I want to be the best female artist in this art association. Nope. You'll be short-circuiting yourself. You don't cut a slice this way. Here's how, this is your ambition. In reality, here's all the artists, here better ones, better ones, better ones, better ones, better ones, best ones. Okay? That's the chart that you're pursuing. Not a slice of the pie, but to try to become the best. I'm not trying to become, anything except a good artist. That's hard enough. That is hard enough. This painting is emerging in a satisfactory but sort of unusual manner, honestly. It's got a lot more opaque on it than most of my paintings usually do. I'm not really alarmed by that. It's just kind of, isn't that interesting? Now there's supposed to be a whole bunch more green up here, but that is a horrible green. Have you heard this before? If you haven't, it's about time you heard it. Green is a very dangerous color. I've heard, I don't know that it's true, I've just heard from some scientific geeky type person that the human being is capable of seeing more shades of green than any other color. I don't know if that's true. And then of course they used the famous or infamous, depending, reverse evolutionary psychology to try to explain why that is so. It doesn't matter. I wasn't there, neither were you. I don't have a dog in that fight, but all that stuff should be taken with a grain of salt, in my opinion. But anyway, we can see, somebody said, and I'm inclined to think it's true, that we can discern more shades of green than any other color. That in itself does not make green a dangerous color. I think green is a dangerous color. So here you're getting Dan Nelson theory, okay? That self-confessed, admitted Dan Nelson theory. I think green is a dangerous color because if you remember your high school anatomy, there are basically two kinds of cells in the back of your eyeball, rods and cones that discern light, right? The rods see light and dark, and the cones see color. I believe I have that right? However, the cones that see color spills, their function spills over into the rod function. In other words, I don't think that we perceive all colors as the same value. I think there are some colors that proceed or get amplified as a value, and some colors get pushed back. So it's real obvious what I'm going to say next, and that is that there's the color green gets expanded. Can I use that term? So that green gets dialed up in our brain. Greens get turned. Yes, ma'am.
We was just wondering who you were.
Yeah, good. I'm glad you. Please read the sign. Thank you. Are y'all from here?
No, Mount Airy.
Oh, well, welcome. Oh, y'all from all over. Yeah. Is there a conference going on?
Yeah.
What is it?
Well, it's compliance, learning about compliance.
Learning about compliance. Okay, good for you. Does it start tomorrow? Started today. Yeah, yeah. Are you compliant, ladies? You look pretty compliant. I picked that up. Well, it's over. Now you can just relax and enjoy our lovely city. Yeah, I don't mean it's just over for tonight. I mean, so.
Let me see what you paint.
Yeah, please do.
Oh, I like it.
Well, thank you. Yeah, you know what it is, right?
Well, it looks like a forest.
No, ma'am.
And it looks like a street or
No,
something.
ma'am. Yes, it is. Why would I be standing here? That's the first question.
Oh.
There you go.
But I watched it from the beginning when you just went.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, these big abstract marks. Yeah. Indeed. That is what I do.
I like it. Mine would not look like it.
No. I do. This is my job.
He said we better cut this off.
He might want to turn it off.
There are ladies here.
I have
There are
that
nice
filter.
ladies here who've been at a boring
Yeah.
Yes.
conference
Yes.
all day,
Yes.
and now they're just hanging loose
So are
and
you
enjoying
on
local
TV
color.
too?
Pardon?
Are you on TV too?
I'm on YouTube. YouTube live.
Awesome.
But not very many people. I mean, there's 19 people watching. All over the world, but
So I think we're a hoot then.
you're a hoot. Would you like to be on?
No.
I knew you were going to say that.
No,
That was just an idle threat, I promise.
No, but I say that because my little grandson watches. He's going to be 2 in November, and he will sit and watch some man on TV that's an artist and just sit and watch him do that.
Is it Bob Ross?
That's it. He's dead. But
Yes, he is. He is.
I know, but he still comes on their TV.
It does. It does.
Is
He's,
it UNC?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Like Sesame Street channel.
We're poor.
Do you ever do any like black and white?
Yeah, not much. Yeah, charcoal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love black and white.
Do ya?
I do.
Do you? Well, that's good.
I have one. It's got some signature.
That you can't read. Okay, I want you ladies, I want you people to hear. This lady just said she's got one, it's got some signature that they can't read. I
Yeah.
preach against that all
Yeah.
the time. Just last night, I've got about a 20-minute tirade where I tell, it's mostly artists who watch me, they need a sign so people can read it.
Yeah, we found it in a barn that my aunt bought for her house, and it's still like in this old
Really?
frame.
Really?
Yeah.
But you can't read the signature.
No. It
What a waste.
starts with a G or something. I don't know.
That's hilarious. So I was just on that topic last night. And there you go. Proof. Somebody that should be getting credit for a fine portrait completely lost to history because they refused to do a signature that was legible. No happy mistakes, please. David. You know what's funny, David, speaking of which, that right there is in fact, that is Bob Ross's best. You know, that is his best line, his best teaching as far as, you know, is there anything serious about his art? Well, kinda, kinda not, you know. Whoops, speaking of making mistakes, I'm making one right here. I need to change that. Oh, I got some serious redrawing to do there. Anyway, happy little accidents, I think is a great way to draw, paint. By the way, tonight's painting is only 24 by 36. So, what's that? 6 times 4, 24 square inches. Is that right? 24 square inches. That's not right. 240 square inches. Oh, I don't know. No, that's not right. I'm sorry, I'm not in my math brain. I'm not going to stop and try to figure it out. Anyway, noticeably smaller than all the other things I've done lately. So theoretically, you know how theories go. Theoretically, I should be done with this one quite a bit more quickly than the big ones. It is true you can paint small faster than big. Not comparably small. Like just because a canvas is twice as big, it doesn't mean it takes twice as long. Conversely, just because a canvas is twice as small, half as small, doesn't mean it takes half the time to paint. No, it's a curve thing, it's not a straight line. But indeed, smaller paintings can be done more quickly, and I think you all know that. Just for fun, I'm going to point you down the street and try to avoid showing you these ladies that are sitting here. There we go. I completely missed them. Almost. Anyway, there's the scene again with a little bit later color. And I'm fairly happy with the way the painting is coming. Pretty quick painting. All right, I am getting my iPad back online, then I can see all your chats. There we go. All right, all your wonderful chats, hundreds of them. Oh boy, I'll have to stop in a little while. By the way, I am gonna try an experiment here in the next for a season. I got a couple complaints, that's putting it too strongly almost. Got a couple constructive criticisms. I think it was last night when I stopped broadcasting for a while, of course, and then when I came back, I kept the same broadcast going, which, you know, I have that. I can do that with a Mevo camera, which meant that many of you you didn't get a notification that I had returned to broadcasting. And that was irritating, which is understandable. So tonight, and I'm going to experiment, I'm going to try signing out of one broadcast and then when I come back, starting another one. So it would be Daily Art Adventure, you know, next number, if you will. The reason I haven't done that in the past is because in the past I've received complaints, and I felt like it was very understandable. Sometimes people would get, you know, 3 or 4 notifications in an afternoon or something that I was broadcasting, and that got a little irritating, and no doubt I lost some subscribers because of that. So we'll see. I'm going to try to hit a happy medium then, because I do feel bad about some of you regulars who really did want to watch the end of the broadcast, but you never got a notification. And sometimes, of course, when I disappear on you, so to speak. I never come back, like last Friday when I thought the rain would be gone in, 30 or 40 minutes, and it poured down for 2 hours. I finally packed up and went home. Anyway, so I'm going to try to remember to do that, to sign off on this broadcast so that you'll get a notification when I start the next one. This is kind of funny, you know what's this painting, right as it is right now, for some reason it sort of reminds me of somebody else's painting. I don't know who, but I mean, it looks to me like not exactly like a Dan Nelson painting. I think it's because I've done so much of this opaque color at early stages. Really does give it a different texture feeling. Anyway, I like it all right. So whoever's painting it is, they're doing a good job. So we'll just keep on. And I think I've captured the essence of the scene, actually. I would have to say fairly quickly. I wouldn't want all my marks to be measured to find out if they're accurate, because I can tell you quite clearly they are not. Again, I've moved a lot of things around, but I have, I think, captured the essence of the scene pretty well. So, hooray for that. Now let's put some figures in here again. Head, shoulders, waist, hips. That's a woman. You can tell because of the skinny waist and the big hips. I'm being sort of facetious, but as an artist, I'm being completely serious as I can be. And I usually start out with sort of exaggerated, I don't know what the word is, dimensions, exaggerated shapes, just so that I can see them. All right, you know what I feel the need to do? I am going to end this broadcast shortly. I'm going to pull up a stool. I'm going to sit down with pencils. I'm going to pull up, I think I took enough pictures. In fact, let me look here real quick. How many cars do I have? Pictures with cars in them. That has some usable cars. That does. That's a waste. That's a waste. There we go. There we go. Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah. So, again, partly because I don't know if the word is paranoid, partly because I'm very concerned about getting cars that are believable. And anyway, I'm just, without your company, without your dear, wonderful encouragement, I'm going to sit on my butt and draw for maybe an hour, maybe 45 minutes, mostly with pencils, because pencils are good for that. And then I'll come back. But before I go, by all means, let's do some. Let me turn you this way a little bit. Let's do some reading your fun chats. Here's my stool. My stool serves several purposes when I'm out here. It has a sign on it. Has my bookmarks that are for sale for $1. And it has my clipboard for taking bids. What a gorgeous evening. Anyway, thank you all for joining me. All right, I'm going way back, so I won't read them all because there are too many. I appreciate all your good comments. Oh yes, and Barbara, that I told you, did you get my message? I think you did. I think you sent me a text when I was down here sitting up. I didn't have time to look at it. Yahoo. Thank you, Barbara. Excited for you to get it. Uncle 60 says I should hang a completed painting nearby. You're exactly correct. I have done that in the past. Will do it in the future. In fact, to tell you the truth, I'm getting conniving to try to figure out where and when I can paint. I'm still feeling to bring out actually one of my giant paintings that I just finished. A number of parameters have to work, but anyway, thanks. That's a good idea. Uncle 60, that is a soft mixing white, but I'm in acrylic, so it doesn't really apply, I don't think. Yay, Barbara, hang it over your sofa. Susan, I agree. Cracks me up. People say how good the painting is at the beginning. So downtown. So Susan's saying you can't trust people when they say nice things about your painting if they say nice things about that, right? Oh, that's funny. Hello. I'm just at the moment going through my chats, responding to my chatty people.
I see what you were doing today.
Yeah. Uncle 60 says, Dan, should the vanishing point be on one of the hard lines, on one of the third lines? Yes. Yeah, well, that's a whole conversation about horizons. There is the technically correct horizon, which is not always a visual horizon. In this painting, it is. It's right about here. The tops of those cars across the street that's about how tall I am. So and thank goodness it's right at the right spot, right? So that is the vanishing point, that lady's head, which is a third little trick that I've learned, by the way. If you can, just for fun, put a person's head on the vanishing point. It's just kind of like I said, a fun trick. It has to be somebody not too prominent. Yes, the vanishing point should be on one of the third lines. That was a good question. Now I've lost my place, so. Heather brings up a very good point. People can be too kind when criticizing arts. Some of you regulars, you've heard me talk about my buddy, Mike Rooney. He and I painted together for the first time, a week. That's a pretty serious commitment, you know. The first time was about 6 years ago. We had such a great time. We've done it every year since. And even though I belong to a painters group, I don't know if it's fair to say, I'm sort of the official leader of that group. And in some ways, I don't want to be cautious here. I'm highly respected in that group. I'll just leave it at that. I'm highly respected. Therefore, many of the members of that group are reluctant to criticize my work. So now, believe me, they're not. On the other hand, they're not. But anyway, when I got with Mike, who's definitely a peer artistically, he didn't hesitate, and I to him as well. We shoot straight with each other. Heather, you bring up a very good point. If you can find a fellow artist who will tell you the truth about your paintings, it's worth, I just can't overestimate how much that criticism has been worth. You know, he'll point to something and say, that ain't working. That thing that you do, you don't think that works good? That doesn't work good. Man, having somebody like that in your life, probably not your spouse. Oh, anyway, thank you. That's a really, really good point. I keep losing my place, so. Susan, speaking for all artists, Susan says, I always criticize my own stuff, so when people say they love it, I look at them thinking, are we looking at the same painting? And there's not an artist that doesn't know exactly what you're saying. That's hilarious. Good, Barbara, a member of a couple groups. That is good to hear. Muskie, hey, that's a new viewer. Are any of the groups public? I've been looking around for a while. Very good, Muskie. Do it, find one. Usually there's one in your town. Uncle 60, I use 3 categories. Yuck, give it to family, and try to sell it. Yeah, you can do this online a little bit. Muskie, let us know where you live. Maybe we can help you out. I'm getting fast. Thank you. Evidently, Muskie, evidently my stream stopped for a few minutes there. Sorry about that. Hello. Thank you. Thank you. Long way to go. Long, long way to go. Yes, correct. Yep. Muskie says, you've been so unlucky with the sun recently. You're exactly correct. Thanks for noticing. Heather says, the color temperature of the car seems warmer, the coolness of the windshields. Yeah, it is amazing how fast the scene changes. And now I'm looking at my painting. It is warmer than I want it to be. So a little glaze of ultramarine might be in order before I start drawing. Good word. Yeah, they're partial to big trucks, personally. Uncle, is it more sidewalk than street? Oh, absolutely. Yes, yes. It's a very wide sidewalk. Thank you. It's a very wide sidewalk, and I'm standing kind of far back in it. So yeah, this sidewalk comes all the way up to here, and we can't see any of the street. Like, this is not street, that's windshield, because these cars completely overlap the cars behind them. So, and there's street in between. So that's just the way that's working out. Hi, Earl. Good to have you back on board. Thank you, David. Conscious competence matrix. That might be what it's. I bet you could look. You could find it. That's good, Heather. You could just Google conscious competence matrix, and you could find that diagram. It's helpful. It's good for artists. And again, the way to get better is to make as many of your competencies unconscious. So you don't have to think about them. So you only have to think about a few at a time. Then you're a little bit less likely to make mistakes. David says, my pie chart is my art, period. Oh, you guys are too funny. My husband just ate the pie. Oh my goodness. Oh wow, Heather, that is such a great picture. If you're in a room with a bunch of doors, don't lock all but one. Explore them all, etc., etc. Never lock the door. That is deep. Exactly, that is deep. Did Bob Ross ever do a portrait? No, I don't believe he ever did a. I don't think he ever. Yeah, and he got that line from Bill Alexander. You're exactly right, Cos. He got a bunch of stuff from Bill. Poor Bill. A little bit of a sad story, but oh well. I don't think it was malicious. I don't think, but anyway. Yeah, Bill Alexander was really the man who perfected that. David brings up a good point about a red light in traffic. I'm assuming you saw that when I turned my camera down the street. Yeah, I noticed that a little bit later too. It's like, ooh, wait a minute. I should definitely have a red traffic light in there. Uncle 60 talking about my women in the Smithsonian. No, there's a whole big room. And it's not just, you know, what's her name that got lost flying to Africa? Sorry, I'm drawing a blank. Yeah, there's all kinds of perspective issues down here, David, I agree. Yes, do people think I'm crazy talking to myself? I think they do. One of the funny parts, hello Sharon, good to have you back on board. And Earl, talk to yourself, only way to have an intelligent conversation. Oh, you guys are too funny. All right, I would say one of the funny things, if I had a mirror, the camera that I'm using doesn't look like a camera at all. So many times people really don't understand. It looks more like a microphone. It's round, it's about this tall and cylindrical. So it doesn't look like what they think of as a camera. Anyway, so yeah, as you know, I tell them all I'm schizophrenic. I just put all that stuff up there to cover up my issues. All right. So I am going to end this broadcast. I'm going to sit down and do a bunch of really careful drawing and try to get things straightened out. Oh, you know what I'm going to do? Wait, before I do that, I'll let you watch for just a minute, just in case anybody wants to watch. I'm going to do, I do want to cool this down a little bit. Just a little bit. We'll be going back and forth many times before it's over, of course. But I do want to cool this down with some ultramarine. Oh, not up there. This is supposed to be warm. All right. Yeah, already. Isn't that funny? Now that's a good, right there, that's a good demo. Why I like painting in transparent layers. Look at how fast how quickly that shifted to where I want it to go, just in a few seconds. Now that'll dry a little bit clearer as it dries, of course. So here's the way that we're doing it now. I'm going to end this broadcast, and then when I start another one, you'll get a notification, because I might be gone for a while. Here, thanks again for watching. Be back as soon as